Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's great to see each of you here. Welcome to the first annual KU Mental Wellness Week. First session is A Pastor's Perspective. Our presenter, Reverend Peter Moore, you have already seen his bio, and many of you already know him, but I'd like to add just a few things to that. First of all, he is a gifted leader, a leader to our district. He is a pastor to pastors, and he's a great friend. And so I'd like to introduce you to Reverend Peter Moore. Welcome, please.
Hey guys, thanks so much for the opportunity to be here and to share something that is near and dear to my heart in ways I would never have predicted. And I'm thrilled that this is your first ever Mental Wellness Week. And I know there's going to be lots of opportunity for you to glean nuggets of wisdom from many different people and have opportunity to see which of those seeds of truth God will have take root in your life in special and important ways that you may not realize until years from now. So I've gotten to know quite a few of you. Some of you I have some history with, and mostly I think that's probably a good thing, at least from my perspective. But some of you I don't really know that well at all. I don't know your background or where you're from or what your calling is or the things that you may think about mental wellness as it impacts who you are in ministry. I'm going to take a little bit of what, for those of you who know me well, will find to be an unusual approach. I'm not unknown for my unusual approaches from time to time, but I'm going to actually just plug the humor hole, and I'm going to go deep, and I'm going to go personal right out of the gate. I've got 15-ish minutes, and that's all I'm going to take, and I have some things I want to share with you that I've had others invest in me down through the years, and things I've developed on my own because of experiences that I've had in ministry. And so you have a handout there. I just simply entitled it 7 Things I've Learned About Mental Wellness from 25 plus years of ministry experience. But let me just dive deep here and tell you about a day in my life. It was the end of August. I was the lead pastor of Hillside Wesleyan Church in Cole Harbor, and I had 2 staff members on staff with me and an administrative assistant. And we were having our weekly staff meeting. And so it was the 4 of us in my office. And I began to weep, not because of what I was talking about. I was just so overwhelmed in a way that I couldn't really explain. And it wasn't the first time that it had happened. It had been going on for some weeks and in varying degrees for several months. Difficulty sleeping, challenges with my own emotional margin to do things that not only normally I could do, but I would actually enjoy. Like I'm kind of wired a little bit differently. Some people avoid conflict. They find that very draining. I'm not saying I like to create conflict, although sometimes I do that. But I do find conflict actually a very energizing ministry environment to serve in. And so, but I found through that season, I was becoming very, very jaded about ministry, about my family, about life, and it was not a good season. And without unpacking all of my story at that point, I just want to say that I began a journey that August, and I had said to myself, I was on staff once with a minister who had had some challenges with emotional health, and he had not disclosed it to his team, which I was on. And I don't fault him for that. I'm not saying he did something wrong, but I do remember coming in one day as a staff pastor in another church And the vice chair of the board was there and told us, your lead pastor is going to be gone for the week. And there wasn't really a reason explained then or ever. And it was kind of one of those, we don't talk about it and we just support. And again, I'm not, to be very clear, I'm not expressing any even remote form of fault or criticism about that, but that impacted me in a way where I said to myself, not thinking it would ever happen, if I hit the skids in some way on a personal level, then I'm going to tell the people around me what's going on and trust them to deal with it themselves. And so that's what I did. And as I began weeping in that staff meeting, I said to them, I said, look, I can't tell you what's happening, but I use this phrase, I feel like something is broken inside me. The things that once brought me joy, I dread. Sorry, I didn't mean to look at you when I said that. The things that I used to be energized by, just the thoughts of even beginning them, drain me. For months, I preached, and I felt like I had just taken a big handful of cotton balls and put them in my mouth and was like trying to talk through a mouthful of cotton balls. And I tend to be more manuscripted when I preach in certain contexts, certainly to the same congregation every week. But I would literally just step into the pulpit and look down at my notes and read my transcript or my manuscript and then pray and be done. And so I shared with my board, I shared with my staff, and of course my wife knew before anybody that I was not in a usual place of life or ministry. And I began to get some help. I began to talk to some people who'd been through similar experiences. I went on medication. And I will just say this as a caveat, because I wanted to get in these 7 things. As a caveat, I twice since that time, which was about 15 years ago, I have unwisely attempted to go off my meds. And both times, within about 6 weeks, I cascaded into a deep hole of darkness. And so you understand, I am not a doctor, all right? This is not a medical seminar in any way. So, but this I know because I found out in my mom's side of our family tree, it is just rife with all kinds of mental health issues. I would have thought of my dad's side because they're a bunch of weirdos, but it was my mom's side. But I just found out there's this whole chain and history, like generations back, people dealing with depression and things like that. And so I realized that there is not a silver bullet, there is not a magic pill, there is not a one-size-fits-all prescription for mental wellness, for mental health issues. And so, but for me, I have a silver bullet. Every day, I take 100 milligrams of Zoloft. Every day. I've done that for 15 years. And, every once in a while you miss a day or two here or there, but the 2 times I tried to go off were disastrous for me. Because I thought life is going great. And so for me, and this may not be true for you, I know some people, that's one of the ways we get help. You go off that. But for me, it just makes life as normal as I can be normal. It just makes me feel like I'm on a level playing field. And it makes life work for me. And I don't even think about it. And I just call it my happy pill, and my kids know about it, and I pop it every night at supper. And so why do I share that? Why do I start this today? And by the way, Alan didn't know this story. He didn't ask me to speak because he knew this. But why do I start with that? I start with that because I want you to understand that regardless of what you are going through now or what you will go through as you grow and mature in your walk with the Lord and in your leadership in His ministry, when those times come, thank God we are in an environment now where some of the stigma and some of, frankly, the faulty spiritualism that was assigned to some of those things, the bad theology, we're in a whole different zone. And I do not stand before you as a shining example of perfection in kingdom leadership, that's for sure. I can give you a long list. However, I love these days of my life. God is blessing. There's so much joy, so much fruit, so much fulfillment, and I'm experiencing faithfulness in my personal walk with God and in what I'm experiencing with my family and my life. I was just saying to somebody earlier, they said, so how are you doing this fall? I said, this fall is probably the best, and Ellen and I, my wife, were talking about this a couple weeks ago. This is probably the best fall we have had in every sphere of our life since we moved back from Indiana in 2014. It's just been an amazing fall. And so I thank God for that, and those seasons come and go. So all of that to say, it's not about medication ever sometimes. Mental wellness. Some of you may never take any medication to help address some of those things, to put you on a level playing field. I also went for counseling. I still do that on occasion, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. It's about changing your thinking. Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And I'm telling you, it is so true, especially in mental wellness, because there are just so many things that we think and believe, and it's often not until we get into the crucible of full-time ministry that the error of that thinking surfaces. You know, someone once said that full-time ministry puts Miracle Grow on your issues. And I think that can happen for us. It can feel like a great curse, but it's actually a great blessing because God pinpoints the things that we are believing that are half true or lies and holding us back from experiencing fullness in Him. So here they are, 7 things. And I got till 1:45. Is that correct? Is that the deal? Yep, good, perfect. A minute each. Here we go. These are 7 things I've learned from a pastor's perspective about mental wellness. All right? The first is this. Number 1, family is my first ministry. If you're not winning at home, then you're not winning. Family is my first ministry. Now, have I gotten this right all the time? No, I've failed miserably at this. But something shifted in me when I began to not see family and ministry as 2 separate components of life to coordinate. When I integrated my belief system that in the ministry God has called me to as a pastor, that my first ministry is my family, it brought them together instead of having them compete against each other. And it was a small shift in my thinking, but it had enormous impact on my ability to schedule family and keep it as a priority and factor it in to who I was called to be as a pastor. It means saying no to a lot of things when family is your first ministry. The last 2 weekends, I have passed up on district ministry opportunities where, frankly, I could have showed up and gotten a few pats on the back and, oh, the DS is here, and taken my picture with a group to put in It's Monday again, but I didn't. I skipped those. One of those was an event that happened here a week ago Saturday, great base camp for student ministries training. I was at home investing in my family. I was actually doing a lot of yard work because my wife's love language is acts of service. I wish it wasn't, but it is. It's a very painful reality in my life. And and pardon me for saying this, and please don't take this in any kind of a crass way, but I skipped out on ministry to make love with my wife, right? I was investing in our relationship through acts of service, and she knows this month she is my first ministry. And so that's a big deal, guys. And trust me, you'll get it wrong before you get it right. But the sooner you can do it, especially if you're a guy, the better life will be. All right? So, number 2, I am not called to make people happy. I am called to lead people where they need to go. I'm called to lead people where they need to go. So when I was 26, I was asked to go and pastor a church that had just split. Some of you have heard me talk about this before. And actually, I have a very meaningful friendship and relationship with that lead pastor and his family who had led the church. He'd been there for 14 years. And for a variety of reasons, the church split. And so I was asked to go in and work with the church. Now, I don't have time to go into all the details. All I will say is the first couple of years there were very difficult for me and a huge learning curve for me. And I remember one day I was sitting in my office working on my sermon, and somebody came in to my office and basically just spewed vomitous pus all over me for about 30 minutes, yelling at me, mad at the church, disappointed in the district, all kinds of things, and then slam the door and walk out. And I thought, didn't see that coming, And in that moment, I had an epiphany moment where, was it God's audible voice? I don't know, but it was clearly God solidifying something in me. He said, Peter, I didn't call you to this church to make people happy. I called you here to lead people where they need to go. And there was something, again, that clicked in me, and it was truth that set me free that day, and it has set me free ever since. Occasionally, I need to recalibrate that, but that is a huge thing for you to understand. Number 3, learn how to be a differentiated leader. Extend trust and authenticity with appropriate vulnerability. Now, if you've never heard, and I don't mean this in any kind of condescending way at all, you just may never have heard that word before. If you've never heard the word differentiated, you should go and talk to Alan Lee and have him explain. We include in our Thrive DBMD workshop that we do for Atlantic District ordination processing. One of the topics we talk about is how to understand what it means to be a differentiated leader, and which in one sense, without going into all of it, simply means that you are not the sum of how everybody reacts to you. You are independent of what is happening around you. And so it gives you an opportunity to have strength in that and an identity in Christ and your faithfulness with Him, and allow the things around you to happen and be responsive to them, but not be reactive in a way that they define you. That's the best short definition I can give on that. But here's the deal. Even when you are in situations that are challenging, it is incumbent on you, for your own mental wellness, to extend trust to people with appropriate vulnerability. And you've all been to those, youth camp testimonial times where you went, oh my goodness, I can't believe they're talking about that, And so there is an appropriate venue and channel and context for varying degrees of vulnerability. And you'll just need help figuring that out. But you need to be vulnerable with people. You need to extend trust and yet be your own person in a way that how they react to that does not shape or inform who you are or what you think about yourself. Number 4, set boundaries with difficult people. Romans 12:18, as far as it is possible with you, what? Live at peace with everyone. As far as it is possible with you, which really Paul was saying, because it is not possible to do this with everybody at the same level, do your best to live at peace with everyone. You're not going to be everybody's best friend. You're not going to have everybody want to go on vacation with you. There are chemistry issues. There are hidden agendas. There are friction points. There are differing perspectives about what's important in life and ministry and different ways that people react when you agree with them or you don't agree with them, or they do get their way or they don't get their way. And you know what? That's just life. And they're difficult people that you will be called to work with. Set boundaries. Go ahead and buy, and I've listed that in the resources, Henry Cloud and John Townsend. They have 422 books on boundaries, and their last book is How to Set Boundaries with How Many Boundaries books you own. And so I recommend you buy that one first, and then but get their book and read it. Number 5. You're not going to like me after this one. Just warning you. I may not stay for lunch. It's on me if I choose to live in the margins. I am not a victim of ministry expectations. If I think I'm burnt out or depressed, it is always the right thing to do to get professional help. Okay, we're going to say that together. If you want to assume like the lotus position or something, oh, stink, I mixed Eastern religion in with this. This isn't good. We're going to say it together. I am not a victim of ministry expectations. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I am not a victim of ministry expectations. Guys, we get to do this. We get to do this. Did that frighten you a little bit? I see that. I see that nervous smile of, please don't come near me. So, this is so amazing that we get to do this. It's incredible to see how God works in people's lives. And it's going to be messy, and people are going to have unrealistic and unknown expectations that they throw at us all the time, all day long. Suck it up, Buttercup. Deal with it. You are not a victim of that. You are totally in control of what you do with that. Number 6, learn your kryptonite issues. All right, Superman, Supergirl, learn your kryptonite issues. We all have them, and they're different for different ones of us. Be self-aware when they are affecting you and initiate an action plan. Things like spiritual disciplines, counselors, medication, hobbies, friendships, etc. I just want to talk about a couple of the ways that, so the really smart people like Alan would say, when you sense your triggers are activating unhealthy emotion, then you should, so I just call it kryptonite, but, triggers. So, but here's the deal. A couple of things for me that have been huge. In spiritual disciplines, because I am an extreme extrovert, sorry about that for you introverts, I'm an extreme extrovert. And of course, who did I marry? An extreme introvert, because opposites attract and then they kill each other. It's in the Bible. You can read it there. So, for me, to focus on solitude and meditation and listening has been a huge thing. And back 15 years ago, when I hit the skids and had to reconfigure my life, that became such a key component of that. And so I've recommended a couple of books. One, Eugene Peterson's Under the Unpredictable Plan, incredible book about the mess of ministry. And then a guide to retreat for all God's shepherds, which I have here. I made the mistake of loaning out my book Under the Unpredictable Plan. I have no idea where it is. I'll never get it back. I'll have to buy another one. I will not loan this out. These are not in print anymore. They're really hard to get. Amazing book. And I take this book any Wednesday afternoon. I am not traveling for ministry. Any Wednesday afternoon, I will be in solitude somewhere, listening, pondering the thoughts of the 5 tensions expressed in this book that we all struggle with in ministry. And there are things written in this journal that are none of your freaking business. So don't come look at that journal. It's filled with personal things, all right? This is me pouring my heart out to God right here, okay? Can't believe I brought this. I shouldn't have brought that. So really, really important, spiritual disciplines and hobbies. Look, guys, this is kind of weird to say, but I like really freakish, geeky games, like Through the Ages and, really Star Trek Frontier and, I'm getting some nods here. I'm seeing who the gamers are in there. I've connected with a whole bunch of unsaved people in Moncton through gamer kinds of connections. And there's something so beautiful about, for me, when I'm feeling super stressed and I know my triggers are there, my kryptonite is starting to act up, I will just schedule a game night with some of my friends. I do that at least once a month, often twice a month. I have some individuals I meet with, and almost all of them are non-Christian, non-church people who are my friends. And we get to talk about spiritual things, but I don't often go in with an agenda to do that. God opens those doors, and it's a way that I refuel my tanks. Not nearly as spiritual as saying, and then I go in solitude and I listen for Wednesday afternoon. I mean, that's kind of spiritual, what you would expect. But I will tell you this, my nights playing crazy, complicated games that most of you would think I'm a total nerd for liking to play, those nights refuel my tanks as much as the solitude that I spend with God. So figure out what you need to do that. And the last one is this, and I'm done. Sabbath is not optional. You will learn this the hard way over and over. Be smart or pay the price. Every winter and every early fall, I send my wife all the dates that I have blocked on my calendar that I'm going to take as my days off. And with rare exception, I honor those dates. There are times that I don't. You will learn that Sabbath is not optional the hard way over and over again. So be smarter than me. Learn it quick, and you won't have to pay the price. God bless you guys. Thanks for this time.